All right, guys, we are back for round seven. Uh, so very deep into the tournament now. We have, I believe, one pair down, so we might have a 10 round event here, depending on how that pair down continues for the next couple of rounds here. But we're just gonna get into the swing of things in a little bit here. Um, so we are just setting up, getting mulligans resolved and stuff like that, and going from there. But Zay, yeah, definitely. A lot of interesting decks. We got to see Ace. I know there's an Ace up there on top ends. I was doing a little bit of walk around. I see a few Zoros. I see a few Crocs. What do you think is going to end up taking it at the end of round 10?
You know, I'm not gonna lie. I'm against the red winning in general. You already know that. So I feel like it might be Croc or something that we just don't expect. Truth be told, there's a lot of interesting lists that we've seen so far. It would be interesting to see a Rebecca, a Vivi. I know some people in chat were talking about that, and we haven't even seen a match like that, at least on stream thus far today. So it'd be interesting to see that a little bit later on, or if we see that coming up. Aside from that, I mean, I think it's going to be something that we just don't expect. I mean, last time we had a Dolphy in the finals when we were in Montreal, so it was, or not in the finals, but in top four. So it's just like stuff like that where it's just we didn't expect that at all, but it got there. And even that Dolphy match that we saw earlier was something very very interesting. And I mean, in this case, as everybody sees now on stream, we have a Katakuri versus a mono blue Crocodile, which is something, we saw Crocodile earlier, but we didn't see this matchup in particular. And I think this is a very good matchup. As we see here, the mono blue Crocodile went first, had no turn one play, passed it on to Katakuri. Katakuri had a turn one, or their turn one pudding, and passed it back over. So now we're back on to Mono Crocodile's turn right here. So this is going to be interesting for sure.
As someone who has both of these decks, I know this matchup very well. And as you see here, the on-curve Sentomaru is going to be very crucial in this matchup because that's about one of the only ways that Crop will be able to put aggression to Katakuri. It is very pivotal because you need to be aggressive in this matchup, especially with all these triggers and stuff like that. You need to be saying your bodies. You cannot play the control game plan like in other matchups. You just have to play very aggressive here to pressure the life total. So here we see Katakuri dropping that 4 cost 6K Opera, Charlotte Opera. Vanilla. So he's opting for this vanilla package here, this early game vanilla package. He's probably on a more aggressive style of Katakuri, which is going to be interesting to see. So here we're going to see the one down attached to the Sentomaru effect search, the Pacifista, and this as a Crocodile player is what you want to see here. You want your opponent not to have that Thunderbolt in hand to get rid of that Sentomaru. So now he can get that 4 cost 6K that we saw so eloquently earlier, and we both know how strong that card is.
Oh, 100%. And in this case, that's kind of something as a Katakuri player that you want to see right now is you want to see that Thunderbolt. You want to get rid of that Sentomaru as early as possible, whether either through Thunderbolt or some type of tech card to put that in life or just something to remove it from the field. Because if this continues on with the way that Mono Blue Croc is going, we could be seeing like in the earlier game that we saw in the earlier round, we're just spamming multiple pacifistas, and that seems like it's not a lot in the earlier turns, but it's definitely something that those 7K swings add up really quickly. So definitely, as a Katakuri player, you want to get rid of the Sentinel for sure. And in this case, the Mono Croc swung onto leader and got out a Peril Sparrow, so it's a good body for the Katakuri to follow up with in the upcoming turn that he has.
Mm-hmm. And Paris Pero and just the combination of the Paris Peras, the puddings and stuff like that, just being able to search for the pieces that you need to see is just very strong. One card that's going to be very important here is the 7 cost Big Mom, and the 10 cost Big Mom, because we're definitely going to be getting to the late game here against both decks, and just being able to strip a life, knowing that Crocodile can't actually get back a life is very, very strong, right? And
100%.
Crocodile
100%.
is definitely a deck that relies a lot on having that card advantage, seeing those cards and stuff like that.
Definitely, definitely. And what we see here is the Katakuri searching another 2K, a new 2K from this set in particular, which is, in my personal opinion, the better 2K than the Pudding, because Pudding can't search Pudding. And in this case, it's now a 2K that can be searchable from Pearl and the Pudding. But definitely, it's a good card to have. And I've seen some people use it against the law for its abilities. But with the rest of this turn, we're going to see a vanilla 6K swing just to get a 2K out of hand, which is a very good play. And most likely, the rest of this turn may be following up with a 7K swing from Katakuri and possibly playing out another 4-drop, which is very possible. And that's what we're about to see here. We're about to see a 7K swing. Category player looking at their life to either keep on top or bottom. And I feel like in this case, they're going to keep on top. And the monocroc is going to go ahead and take the life. It seems like there's a trigger here. So it's going to be interesting what that trigger is, I'm going to say.
Yep, so here we see the Red Hawk, so that's just going to bottom that Paris Pair, which is a huge trigger on the side of the Croc player's side. We did see a little bit of a glimpse of the Croc player's hand having the 3,000 whirls, and you see here the Katakuri player just dropping a blocker Sanji here to possibly protect the Charlotte Opera. But like I said, we did see that 3,000 whirls there, so that definitely can get rid of that Sanji pretty easily and just commit a swing over the Opera. We also still have that Sentomaru on board, so Katakuri not seeing the Thunderbolt as of yet, or a way to get rid of the Sentomaru, so that Sentomaru still is going to be generating value by getting Pacifistas. Like, getting one Pacifista on board is already value enough, but getting multiple, like 2, 3, and even the blocker is really, really huge. So here we're going to see the ability. Let's just see if he runs the blocker one, or he's just going to go for another. Yep, and there he is. He's just going for another 4-cost 6K. So that's 2 on the side of the Croc player here, and now he has the aggression. So let's see what he's gonna do here with it. So me personally, right now, what I would personally do is would attach the 2 Dawn onto the Pacifista that can swing, maybe force out, or at least get a couple of cards out of hand to try to control the board a little bit. But he could also just go and try to get those triggers out of the Katakuri's life early, so he doesn't get value from it.
100%. And in this case, we're going to go ahead and see just a 6-on-6 swing, which is pretty good. And we did see one of the pacifistas discarded for a counter earlier. So in this case, there might be, it could be either there's only one more left or none more left. So we could even see possibly a Sentomaru swing. And that really just falls on the Mono Croc. And that's exactly what we see here is a Sentomaru swing. So that just goes to say that there's no more pacifistas in deck, or just there's no more need for the abilities to be used. And in this case, it seems like there's a trigger in the opponent's deciding, or he just has no cards in hand. Oh, okay. So he added that card that was from Life in Hand. The Mono Croc swung and just discarded to 2K, which kind of tells Kyle, what exactly his hand is looking like. Just a lot of big bodies, possibly possibly some 8-drops, 7-drops, or just cards that just don't have counter, which is really rough, especially with that 3,000s to bottom deck that Opera. Really, really good.
Yep. So that 3,000 world is just coming in very nice here. So Opera, the aggression that the Katakuri player had right there with that card is now gone. So, but he's still, like, being able to swing 7K onto leader every turn just for 1 Dawn is just so good in this matchup. Because that
100%,
at least getting 2 cards out of the Croc player's hand. So, yeah, it's very, very strong. So here we're going to see a swing of 5K onto the Sentomaru to try to get it off. But we do see here Kyle is just thinking about if he wants to chuck a 2K counter here on it to protect, because maybe he is on that blocker Sentomaru, blocker Pacifista, and here we see him using a 2K counter. So he thinks the Sentomaru is still putting a little bit of use here. I mean, to be honest, it is still a 5K swinger when you attach that one dot onto it. So here we're gonna see a plain old Jane 5K swing, and we do know that Kyle has 2K counters here that he could potentially put towards it, but will he commit another card to protecting that Sentomaru? And he
And
does.
he definitely will, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he uses the 2K Sasaki. So what Frank hasn't used any Dawn yet this turn, so let's see what he's gonna drop here to deal with this onslaught of cards that are coming from the side of Kyle in the Pacifistas and the Sentomaru.
100%. There's a couple of options here, and I feel like, yeah, Katakuri is definitely a good option for sure. Putting that at the bottom just to say, hey, you discarded that for nothing essentially. That's a really good play, truthfully, from Frank. And I think it's really, really good to get rid of that card and put that at the bottom life, knowing that this is your last life and there's not going to be no crazy trigger that's pop off. It's a really good play, especially in reverse of putting it possibly on top. It would kind of be pointless because then you're just going to give that fodder back to your opponent when they take their next life. But what we're going to see here from Kyle is kind of what we saw similar to earlier Croc matches. You're going to start seeing those 7K swings from those vanillas for sure. And that first 7K swing got rid of that blocker, which is very good to get rid of early rather than later because you don't want that blocker to restand in the following turn for sure.
Sure. All right, so now the other thing about putting that Sentomaru at the bottom as well is now you know that when you're pushing for game, your opponent is going to have one essentially just dead card in hand, right? So that definitely helps for your late game numbers. And that's why that 8 cost secret category from OP03 is very strong. Just being able to say, hey, I know you're not going to have one card in hand guaranteed for sure. And with Katakuri ability, right? Because you can look at the opponent's top card. Now you can play some mind games with your opponent because they're like, oh, I'm gonna get my Sentomaru back. Oh, I know you don't have at least 2 cards. Full short.
1,000%. 1,000%. And ooh, that's a really good trigger. Having that Sanji discarding the Brûlé to put that out there is really, really good. Now it kind of just defeats an attack here. And we see the 4th Pacifista from hand. It's just pretty wild. And to follow up with the Dolphy just to see the next top 5. It's a really, really good play, kind of just to see what your next moves are. In this case, there was no need essentially for the Sentomaru. Considering that all the vanilla pacifistas were played at least, unless Kyle does play that package of pacifista blockers. And in this case, we can't really see here, but still having that Dolphy blocker to put out there to protect yourself is definitely a good play from Kyle for sure.
Yep, for sure, for sure. And just being able to get that trigger out of life from on the side of Frank there, basically that last swing onto the Sanji is just like, no, I got back my Sanji, so haha, I have another swing, right?
Exactly.
So now we can start to see some swings here. And there is just an AK swing raw onto the Croc leader. I believe Frank is on his 10 Dawn turn. So this is definitely, this is a tried and true Katakuri player here. Because once you see that 5K swing with the leader, you know what's coming down. The one, the only Charlotte Limlin is going to be dropping on this turn 10 here. So a life will be burned, and there will be a life getting back onto the side of Frank for sure. Yep, I'm not surprised here. Full 10 tap, boom, there it is. Charlotte Limlin, and that alt art, man, I love that card. Yeah,
Man,
yeah.
That whoever drew that had some twisted dreams the night before because that definitely just looks like the Joker put on Lin-Lin's face. It's it's creepy.
It is a very creepy alt art, but we do love that card. So that card, if you guys don't know what that does at home, you burn, essentially you get to trash the top card of your opponent's life, and you get to recover one. And that is no conditions, no nothing, just straight burn one, heal one. And it's a 12K body, so it is swinging. So essentially you can get 2 life for the price of one card. So yeah, that coming down, and in combination with the Charlotte Katakuri as well, there's just a lot of aggression that's going to be coming out next turn for sure. So here we see a swing, and it looks like that's a okay, so Frank decides maybe not to trigger that life card there, and here we're going to see a Sanji block potentially. So yeah, there is the Sanji block. Another 6K swing onto leader. So this is going to be another take as well. And then another 6K. And now we're getting into the nitty gritty of things. Ooh, and Frank is going to take that there. And there is the Paris trigger. And then just going to attack.
10 drop, maybe.
10 drop. Yep. So we're going to do some bouncing here. Bouncing the Katakuri and bouncing the Charlotte Paros. So, yeah, it looks like the triggers just weren't nice to Frank here. And I said this early in the matchup that these Pacifistas and Sentomaru are going to be the deciding factor here because they've been on board for 2 to 3 turns now and just 6K, right? So next turn, it's definitely tough to deal with this. So Frank is in a position here where it's not nice because 3 life on the side of Croc, right? And it's just going to be quite rough to deal with this whole board state. He has to try to clear as much as possible, and then that doesn't include the fact that one swing can be stopped. So maybe he'll be able to get rid of the Pacifistas, but he's still looking down the barrel of a 12K Kaido, which is very strong.
I'm not going to lie. I think this is GG's here. Truth be told, he has 3 life. He has 4 or 5 attacks next turn. I mean, I really, truth be told, I don't see a way out of this for Frank. And even having to attach a Dawn.
Yeah, and then there you see the 2K counter. Yeah, this is looking like the end game here for Frank, unfortunately, because the thing is, Kyle is just willing to protect. He only needs to have 2 swings here because he can just go 12K and then go 15K with leader, right?
Exactly.
But yeah,
even if he puts a blocker out there, it's kind of just pointless because Croc has the leader ability. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie. It was kind of just like an unnecessary save. Not gonna lie to you, but you know, hey, to each his own. This is GG's if I see anything, honestly.
Yeah. So here, here we're seeing a 7K swing here, just seeing what's on top there, and just reading the card. But yeah, we did see a little bit of a peek of the card there, so we know what card that is at the bottom. So he ends up, Kyle ends up taking the life here, and there's no way, I think. Yeah, and then there's the GG. Yeah, that early Sentomaru into those Pacifistas, just deciding the matchup there. And that's how you have to play that as Croc, because if they have the Thunderbolt in hand, they just get rid of the Sentomaru and deal with it. But if you don't see it early, it is really rough. And the triggers there on the Katakuri side was also pretty rough as well. But yeah, GG's to Kyle, though. Played it well.
Yeah, and it's definitely crazy seeing that the Sentomaru, like, if you really think about it, like, Sentomaru is an OPO1 card. The fact that this OPO1 card is put in work not once but twice in 2 different matches just kind of shows like how much like this OPO4 format has brought back other leaders from previous sets. I mean, if you think about it, Croc was kind of being talked about in OPO3 a little bit. It had some deck list here and there. But this set, it's definitely putting in work. Having just additional cards such as Red Rock just be a card in itself, be really good. And this game, we get to showcase the 10 drop, really putting in some work, bouncing the 8 drop category along with the Paros that was just played off of life. Like seeing some of just additional 2 cards essentially that were added into this OPO1 deck, give and take. It just really goes to show how much these sets have changed dramatically because of just additional cards such as those. So it's really, really just good on both players. It was a good match, but in cases like this, like, it was just really, really rough for Yellow to see those triggers, like you said. And I mean, Kyle was able to get that sense tomorrow early on, and Frank didn't see that Thunderbolt until later in game. So, I mean, good match to both of them. This is just a really tough situation for Yellow. And I mean, GG's, man, GG's.
GG's to both players. So now we're going to get into the swing of things of round 8. So we're about to go find out and see if the pair down has won their match or if they lost their match, because that's going to be crucial to determine if we're going to have a full 10 rounds today. Right now, we're guaranteed for 9, but we're going to see if the pair down is going to be the one who's going to put us to the full 10 rounds today. And that's definitely going to be a shake-up when it comes to the end of the rounds and who's going to be on the top side of the bracket and stuff like that. So make sure you guys stay around. We're just going to take a little break here, get some stuff worked out on our side, and we'll be back shortly for round 8 of the 2023 Niagara Spooky Regionals. So we'll be back in a little bit. All right, guys. So make sure you guys get hydrated and stay strong.